Welcome to HR Voices, a podcast for independent HR and people professionals and the businesses they support. HR Voices is brought to you by the expert team at HR Independence Limited. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of HR Voices podcast. I am your host, Mary Asante, and with me here today, I've got the amazing Meg Hutson. Hi, Meg.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. I'll let Meg introduce herself, and then we would then be talking about how you can use LinkedIn as a tool to help grow your business or your consultancy business. So, Meg, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So I am a marketing mentor. So I focus specifically on content and messaging. I work with solo founders who are offering a service. They're all very, very passionate about the work they do. But as we were just saying before we start recording, so often people start a business and don't realize quite the other kind of stuff that needs to go on. And marketing is one of those biggest factors. So I help people to actually bring in the inquiries, know what to post that their audience are actually going to resonate with, look at where they're going to focus, etc., etc. And yes, today we're going to look at LinkedIn because that is often one of the main channels that my clients use.
Thank you, Meg, for that introduction. I think LinkedIn is a really interesting platform for consultants, for us as consultants, because obviously you start off, you get on LinkedIn, and I remember more than 10 years ago when I started my consultancy, one of the first meetings that I had with a connection to just talk about what I'm trying to do, how they might be able to support me, etc. One of the first questions they asked me was, how many connections do you have? And then I kind of went, oh, I've got X amount. And they said to me, you need to have more than 500 connections on LinkedIn for it to be even start counting towards anything. And until then, I kind of gone with the whole, I would really connect with people I know and I know very well
Yeah.
and all those other things. So I've been very conservative about how I connected with people, and they were going, no, 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 you don't want to do that. You want to connect with as many people as possible.
It's a totally different way of thinking, isn't it? And particularly when people have come from corporate, which is a lot of my clients have come from corporate and they've started their own thing. So you've got this very set way in your mind of how you use LinkedIn. It's there to find a job. It's there to kind of as a bit of a CV, isn't it? And like you say, you just connect with people that you know, or maybe people that you want a job with at a push. But it's that even, I don't think it's such a thing now, but for a long time, some people on their profile would have like, you need my email address to be able to connect with me. And like, that's not what LinkedIn's for. Like, LinkedIn, as far as I'm concerned, is to build your network. It's a form of networking to meet new people, but that's often not how we think of it when we come from a corporate setting, is it?
I think it's definitely evolved because from HR point of view, and again, I've got an information security background and worked in certain sectors, etc. But from the point of view, one LinkedIn, when it first started, there was this whole debate around, is your connections yours or is it for the company and the organization that you work for? And I've actually been part of discussions where if somebody in a very senior position is leaving, do they leave with their connections or does that pass on to the organization? Because that whole thing was deemed as an asset, especially a sales pipeline of some sort. If, for example, you are in a marketing role, so every exhibition, every event, etc., you'd have gone to, you would have gone in the as a representative of the company, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're a sales director or someone like that, again, a lot of your connections may well be your customers. So businesses were concerned from that angle about those connections, whether people took it with them, etc. But I think we've gone past that. And we're now at the point where everyone is like, okay, breathe. It's okay for people to build these connections and own those connections. But talking about our community, HR people, etc., when you're in corporate or when you're in house, you're mostly behind the scenes, isn't it? And because of the sensitivity of things that we deal with, even within the organization, you may not well even connect with the employees that you're working with for various reasons. So
Yeah.
building your network in that sense can itself be challenging, isn't it?
Definitely. Do you know, I've never heard that of a company thinking they own
Oh,
own the connections. I've had it where the company thinks they can make you have your cover graphic a certain way or speak a certain way, but your connections are your connections.
oh
Like,
no, 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 no. It was huge back then. When LinkedIn first started,
wow.
it was huge. It's like we get to know
Wow.
our salespeople on this, and then all their connections are going to be our customers, do our competitors then easily work out who our customers are and the rest of it. So it was a big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
That's amazing. There's so much more understanding now about a personal brand, isn't there? And the
yeah.
value it has for the company. But also, I think, and you'll know a lot more about this from an HR perspective, but companies are understanding more and more that it's not that people have to stay with you and you own them. It's like, actually, as a company, what are you doing to encourage people to stay? And actually, if you aren't the next best step for them in their career, a lot of companies, not all, but a lot of companies are now going, amazing. Like we've had our time with you. It's your time to move on and go somewhere else. And a personal brand is a big part of that, right? And I think companies are understanding that. Like it benefits you while they're with you. If they choose to leave, so be it.
I think absolutely. So,
Yeah.
for example, I think a good analogy to that is when people think, do I train people? And what if I invest in people and they're training and they leave? And the other side to that is, okay, what if you don't invest in them and they stay? As an organization, it's in your interest because if your employee is working for you, and they are representing themselves and in a way you in a professional platform or on a professional platform such as LinkedIn, then it's really in your interest to make sure that their personal branding, and I think that's where you were talking about some companies worrying about the tone, the style, etc., that their employees were representing themselves. And that is a really interesting challenge, isn't it? Because on one hand, actually, for it to be a personal branding and a personal platform, the individual needs to have their freedom to express themselves the way they want to. But whilst they're working for an organization in a professional setting on a professional platform, then the company also has an interest that you come across in a certain way because you are representing them. So, how do you balance that? And I think that question is even more important as an independent consultant or a small business organization representing like on LinkedIn because you're definitely not just representing yourself but your business as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And so much of personal branding is about showing our personalities. So I believe that companies should be hiring people who fit personality wise and like culture wise as much as anything else, right? Like it's not just skill set. So a personal brand is an incredible way for you to show that before you've got a job, during a job, whatever. And you can be pushing your personal brand and being yourself while still representing a company. You don't have to be formal to represent a company, do you? You can be yourself. Obviously, you're not going around swearing and being nasty to people. And I've seen people lose their jobs through LinkedIn, but it's because they've done awful stuff. It's because they've been sending very inappropriate messages and then someone's shared it and gone, look what this company's employees are doing. But I don't believe people should lose their jobs just because they post about something they're passionate about or any of that. When we are independent, I would say even more so, the personal brand is really important because there are a lot of people doing what every single one of us is doing out there. And one of the easiest ways to stand out is to show personality and to show purpose. Talk about what you believe in, talk about your opinions, show some you-ness, show who you are, because that's actually what stands out. It gets engagement as well, which is obviously great because it gets you seen by more people. But in terms of like a company feeling like you'll represent them well, actually that cultural fit is very important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think culture is a very, very important aspect of what we all do. It's really who we are, what we do, and how we do things here, isn't it? So the fit, the values alignment, and everything is really important because if the culture isn't right for you, you will struggle to perform, be yourself, excel in that environment. And
Yeah.
if values don't align, you'll be cringing inside every time you are doing your work or whatever you are doing, and because there's no alignment. And I think more so as a consultant, it's important that you're able to represent, like put yourself out there in a way that your values comes across very strongly, because if you are using LinkedIn as a platform, as a tool to help develop your business, to help put your business out there, to attract the right customers and the right clients to you, you need to be speaking to them in a way that your values comes through quite strongly, so that you'll be attracting clients that aligns with your values, and you have, so you share common values, goals and objectives, etc. Otherwise, when you attract the wrong clients, you will struggle.
And
And
it's not fun, is it? It's not fun when you're stuck with a client who just that doesn't align, whatever in whatever form that might be. So it's so much better if we can be really clear about who we do want. It is a bit of a Marmite effect, and that scares some people, but it is a bit of a Marmite in that we want to repel some people in order to attract others. Like I've done content before about how, like, if you think suits are what make you a good business person, we are not going to get on. And my now longest term, one of my loveliest clients, commented on that, being like, suits are for funerals. And then we got DMing and he signed up. And because I'd repelled people who are not for me for whatever reason, and attracted people who were like, yeah, that's what I need. Like, I just need someone who can do their job, but also I can get on really well with, because that is
yeah,
really important, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
very important. So, thinking about LinkedIn,
Mm.
then, how can you use LinkedIn as an effective tool to help you and your business?
So there's three key elements to LinkedIn. And often the reason people aren't getting inquiries or anything like that is because they aren't doing all of them. So the first one is your content, which is
Mm.
probably the one most people kind of jump to. The second one is connection. So it is like we said before, going out and finding new people and reaching new people. And then the other one is conversation. So it's not just a case of putting content out and going, hire me, like this is what I do, hire me. It's a case of being in those DMs, being in the comments, and having real conversations with people. So you need all three of those, because you need to be bringing new people into your world. You need to have content there that shows authority, it shows what you do, it shows personality, as we say. And then you need to be having conversations, because really our attention spans are so low now, aren't they? And if you think about the people that would be hiring an independent HR consultant or specialist, then they are very busy people. They're not going on LinkedIn trying to figure out what you do. They're probably just scrolling on by, getting on with their day, aren't they? So you need to be showing up in content if they're having a quick scroll, but also in their DMs, and actually building real relationships that way as well.
I think that is the challenge in that content generation. Yes, some people will find one or two of the three. That is what the content, the conversation, and what
Connection.
connection. Some
Yeah.
people may have find two of the three easier, or may find one of the three easier. Very few people will find all three quite easy, and some people have nailed it and execute it, but others will struggle in terms of if you're thinking about and we said at the very beginning, when you're running your business, you don't realize how much you have to do outside delivery. So content creation might be easy for somebody, connection may be okay or might be easy, but the conversation bit, the keeping it going, can be quite time consuming, isn't it? Because you can write content, you can schedule content to be pushed out and to time and all that. But engaging in those DMs, engaging, commenting on people's comments, it's something that personally, sometimes I struggle with the commenting on people's comment because someone will comment, I'll read the comment and go on. And I know, oh, you should comment on it. Do I?
You're just busy, you're
Thing.
getting on with other stuff, like you get distracted. I get it.
Absolutely. So I think that is a real challenge. What would be your advice around that?
Really, it's about making it into a habit, like same as anything. Like for me, it's the first half an hour to an hour of the day is my LinkedIn time. So it's when I open it up, I reply to all of my messages, I reply to any comments on my own posts, and I go out and I find new people to talk to. So it is like, I know it's not the most helpful bit of advice, but it is getting into the habit of it because you can't force yourself to do it. It has to become part of your day, whether it's something you do at your lunch break. For me, first thing works before I get distracted by other stuff. If I said I'd do it at the end of the day, I wouldn't do it. It has to be at the start of the day. In terms of starting conversations, and like people can feel a bit icky about that or a bit like, oh, what do I say? Like salesy, particularly when you've come from corporate and you've not had to do any of that. So the two easiest ways, if you are sending out connection requests, so if you're going and you're connecting with people who are potential clients, so maybe they are CEOs, founders, whoever they would be, you're going out connecting with them. Don't worry about sending a message with that connection request, because if you've not got a paid account, you only get 10 a month anyway, and I'm sure they'll reduce that again soon. So don't send a message with your connection request. It also looks quite spammy as far as I'm concerned. So just send the connection request. When they then come back to you, it will appear in the, so you've got the top bar on LinkedIn if you're on desktop, and it says My Network, and then it says on the left, it says Connections. When you click on Connections, it shows them in order. So anyone at the top is who's recently connected with you. So you can then go through, and even if you only do this once a week, even if you have, depending on how many connection requests you're sending, but half an hour in your diary once a week blocked out, where you then go through and you message all of those people, and you can just say something really, you can literally just say, how's your week going? Or you can look at their profile and you can say, I saw you're working on this project. How's that going? Or looks like you've recently joined this company. Basically just starting conversation just as you would if you met somebody at a networking event or at a party, whatever. Small talk, conversation, as we do. I like to say something like, it's great to be connected. I really hope I add some value to your feed, and let me know if I can support you at all. Because it's a very, very soft sell. I'm not going in saying, do you want a call? Or this is what I do you need it? I'm just saying, let me know if I can support. I get some people come back and go, actually, I really need some help. Most people just go, thank you very much, that's really kind. Some then say, actually, I've just shared this post, would you mind just commenting on it? Something like that, because I mean it in every sense of the word. I don't just mean, do you want to hire me? However I can support you, I'm here. So that's quite a nice opener. Starts a bit of a conversation. That's really nice. If they've sent you a connection request, you can be more direct, because they've obviously reached out to you. They've kind of opened the door, haven't they, to a certain extent. So then I tend to give two options. So I say something like, thank you so much for the connection request. Are you here for marketing support or just to soak up the free content? Like either way, it's so lovely to meet you, because you're giving them two clear options. And that works really well. There's no pressure at all. Again, you're not saying like, so why do you follow me? Do you want to work with me? You're just saying like, what brings you here? You know, and you're giving them options. They don't have to think of something. You're giving them two clear solutions. And that then gives you a way to follow on the conversation. Because if they say, I'm here for support, then amazing, you start that conversation. If they say, I'm here for the free content or whatever it is you say, you can then say, oh, amazing, like I actually have this free guide that I made. Or for me, it's I run a free session once a month that people can come to. So either way, it gives you a way to continue that conversation, which is really what we're looking for here. It's not having dead end conversations where you're going, how are you? Yeah, fine, thanks. How are you? Yeah, fine. That's not a conversation, is it? That's just an awkward encounter. So it's like, how can you actually ask some questions that they want to answer at the end of the day, because they're busy, particularly if you're going for like senior leadership. What do they want to hear from you? It might be that you do go a bit more direct and see how that works. But yeah, it's opening up those conversations and getting in the habit of it, I would say.
I think that's really important, and actually playing the devil's advocate a bit here and putting myself at the receiving end sometimes of some of these messages. It goes from a brain, oh, hey, Mary, it's great to connect with you. Looked at your profile and we share common interest and whatever, to, hey, Mary, this, that. By the way, can you buy these services? Sometimes there's direct services that you provide. And
Yeah.
then you go, hang on a minute. If you looked at my profile, as you said you have, then you would see that these are the services that I provide to people who go, hey, these are my services. This is a link to my video, blah, 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 and the rest of it. And you kind of go, hey, nice to connect with you, and the rest of it. And then they come with a whole host of, oh, this, that, which mostly I don't engage, I don't respond to. Then you get a second and a third and a fourth from the same person in a very salesy type, because they're obviously following some sort of script where
Yeah.
they have to send this out first, then send that out, then send that out, then send that out. And you kind of think, seriously, that is spamming at that point in time, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, everyone's so different, because some people do say, like, if you're selling a service, just sell it to me. Like, just ask me if you want it. And I think to a certain extent that can work, particularly with the really busy target audience. But also, there's a lot of HR consultants out there, right? So you won't be the first person that's messaged them. It's very, very unlikely anyway. So if you just go, I do this HR service, like, do you want it? They'll probably just ignore you, because they'll think, well, I've got 10 other people in my inbox saying the exact same. Whereas when we can actually build genuine relationships, we're not doing it for the sake of it. Like, we're actually just getting to know people, having conversations, learning from each other, building our networks. That's when the real value comes. And that's when sometimes it takes a long time. Like, I'm not going to pretend it's instant. Sometimes it's instant. Other times I'll get somebody a year down the line, 2 years down the line, going, I really enjoyed our chat last year. I've been looking at your content. I'm ready to have a chat. And it means that you're staying top of mind. Whereas if you go in straight with that sales pitch, then you've probably lost them. Maybe you get a call or something out of it, but more likely you've alienated them and they just think of you as the spammer and they like stay away.
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about your that initial introduction is absolutely important, and how you develop that relationship, and think about it as somebody you met at a network meeting up for coffee, and then follow up at another coffee or another network or something like that, and getting to know the person. Because we also hear this a lot, isn't it? Where someone you've never met in person but have engaged online in some sort of way, and you eventually get to meet, and they've it feels so familiar. It feels like you've known them for a long time, because you've engaged, you've developed, and you've built that relationship with them.
Absolutely. Like, I had a first call with a new client last week, and I was like, we must have spoken before, because we've been chatting probably for about a year on Instagram, this one, and backs and forwards, voice notes, like we've become friends. And so when we had this call, it was just like we knew each other really well. And
Yeah.
it really, like, some people don't believe you can actually build like real relationships online, but you 100% can. But it's about being yourself. You can't do that if you're going in all formal and like salesy. Whereas if you go in actually looking to build a business relationship, a friendship, whatever, that's where the value is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in terms of your, if we take the first one, connections, How do you go about building your LinkedIn connections?
Okay, so you can send around 100 a week yourself. It varies a little bit from person to person, but it's around 100 a week. So if you can do 20 a day, don't use a bot for it. This is a warning. Like LinkedIn have now said they have fully banned any add-on, even Grammarly. You're not allowed to use for LinkedIn now. It puts you at risk of being banned. So please don't use a bot to send connections because you might get blocked. But you can send around 20 a day. Ways to find them, the kind of easiest or simplest is just to put it in the search bar at the top. So if you are looking for CEOs, put it in there. If you work with finance companies, put it in there. You can filter through that reasonably easily, but it does limit how many searches you can do. So you can do that to a certain extent. One of the best ways to find people that are actually active and that maybe you do have more in common with is to look at like big creators in that space. So who are the big names that if you were a director of a company, you would be following? So it might even be like people like Stephen Bartlett, or I don't know why I can only think of names that I don't necessarily like, but like Elon Musk and like people like that, big names who these CEOs might be following. If you go and then engage in their content, you'll be finding people that are also active. So you go onto one of their posts, you look in the comments, and you start looking through because you can see everyone's headlines. So you start looking through and you think, actually, they look like they could be a good client. You go on their profile, you have a look, you send them a connection request, you send them a message. So it takes a little bit longer than like mass connections, but it is much more valuable because you know those people are active. So they're actually going to hopefully see your connection request and see your message. You perhaps have a similar interest of some form. There's a lot more basis there to start that relationship and start that conversation from. So that's a really nice way. But also just in your own feed, so the posts that are coming up for you, are there any like, so someone in your network might have commented on a post that then brings that into your network. Are they a good connection? Again, in the comments, it's keeping your eyes peeled and being quite intentional with it. A lot of us go on and get into a bit of a scroll hole, I call it, where you just scroll in, you're not really doing anything, but you're like, well, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But it's being intentional and actually keeping your eyes peeled, like who do you want to be connecting with? Who do you want to be starting conversations with?
Great. And again, that is where I think before we came on, we're talking about the fact that the algorithm, etc., is changing all the time. And you just talked about the fact that, okay, I think at some point, again, people, marketing, LinkedIn trainers, etc., were encouraging people to use bots and different tools to help you build your connection as fast as you can for those who wanted to. And actually, sometimes I look at a connection who had probably about 2,000 connections last week. And this week you look again and they're up to 10,000 and you're going, oh, wow, how did they do that? And, but you're saying, okay, actually now there's a warning around you using a bot. So you need to organically grow your connections, etc. So it's important that I think we highlight that when you're doing things, you need to pay attention to what works, what isn't working, or what may have worked yesterday but isn't working anymore, or what may work today but might not work tomorrow.
Absolutely, like things change so fast, and like anything in the online world, but particularly with AI as well. And so a lot of the reason like things are changing is because there is a lot of AI content out there and it's just really boring. Like there's no personality in it. There's no strength of the message at all. It's just so it's so dull. So please don't use AI content. It's also apparently the platforms can tell because of like the way it's written and the way it's structured and stuff. So just don't do it, basically. But what were we saying about? Sorry, remind me of your question because it's completely
No,
gone.
I think it's okay. My question was around how to keep up to date with how LinkedIn was
Yeah,
changing. But
yeah,
actually, you've touched on what I was going to talk next anyway. So it's led nicely into your
perfect.
next C, which is content.
Hmm.
How do you go about ensuring that your content is relevant and is speaking to the right people that you want to be talking to through your content?
Do you know, market research helps so much because so often we think we know what people want to hear or what their problems are or what they're struggling with. And then you speak to them and they put it a completely different way. So we make a lot of assumptions. So I would really, really recommend market research. Like if you've got, so say if someone has gone independent, perhaps you've got an old colleague or a boss or whatever that maybe you could speak to, ask some questions, just have a conversation and find out more. That's really important as a starting point. It's thinking about what you do differently as well. Like, what is it that you want to put across? What is your purpose? Like, what's driving you? That's really important. And that makes amazing content. But in general, it's like, it's looking at what the symptoms are that your target client is struggling with. So it's not necessarily like for you guys, it's not necessarily somebody in the team and how they feel. It's perhaps it's the bottom line that's suffering. Maybe it's that staff are leaving and it's costing a lot more to bring new people in than it would have cost just to retain the ones that you got, the classics. So it's about kind of mind mapping it, like literally mind map it. If you have like your ideal client, whoever that might be, and then come out from there and what are their struggles? What are their symptoms at the moment? The more specific you can talk to that person, the more you will be found by them. So you don't want to just go really generic. So instead of like, take a personal trainer, for example. So instead of saying you want to lose weight, if you can say like every time you go to put your jeans on, they're just that little bit too tight, you keep telling yourself that you're going to eat healthier, but it's just not happening. All you want is for your jeans to do up so that when you sit down, you're actually comfortable rather than it digging in. Like, speaking very much from personal experience here, but it's speaking in that very specific way. And that's how people feel seen and heard and understood. And those are the reasons people buy at the end of the day. So it's connecting with people. How can you use your content to connect with people?
I think you've touched on a very like important aspect of content in terms of not necessarily focusing on buzzwords, because from the example you've just used, you want to lose weight can be off-putting, off-turning for people. But if you're talking about the nuances, the struggles, the challenges that people have when they put on weight, that is, you go into your wardrobe, you try on your pair of jeans, and oh, actually, that's a bit tight today, and you sit down and you're so uncomfortable, and the rest of it. It's really, oh yeah, I can relate to that. And I can see, oh yes, I've been meaning to do this, but life gets in the way and this, and that. And so, okay, actually, I can relate to that. Now, how do I get from this to probably taking steps to actually resolve it? And Meg might be a good person to speak to because she can actually understand what I'm going through.
Yeah, it's really digging in. Like so often when I look at people's content, it's just very surface level, and that's why it doesn't get engagement, it doesn't get inquiries. It's really speaking to that one person and not being scared to just talk to that one person, because we often think, oh, I can't narrow it down because I'm leaving money on the table. But actually, by trying to speak to everybody, you sell to nobody because nobody feels seen or heard or any of that. So like you've said relatable a couple of times, and that is so key. How can you make it so that it's very obvious you relate to your ideal client?
Excellent. And another aspect of content is LinkedIn has got this feature, isn't it, where you can literally feature your posts
Mhm.
at the top of your thing so that more people see it.
Yeah.
Should you, and I know that before you feature a post, you need to let it kind of simmer organically first. You put the post there, you let it run its course, then you feature it, because that works better than you just post, then you pin to feature and the rest of it. But the first thing I want to explore is, should you be featuring some of your posts in the first place, or should you just leave them to kind of run their course?
So I wouldn't particularly feature a post. What I like to feature is like a link or case studies, something like that. So if you think about your profile as a landing page
Mm.
and think like what are the key things or the key next steps that somebody needs to take in order to work with me. So it's not necessarily book a call. Like I would have a book a call link on there, but what else is there? Because there'll often be a gap between they've come onto your profile, most people aren't ready to book a call with you. What's next? So for me, I have information about how I work in my features section. I have a link to my free marketing meetup, which is once a month, like I say, totally free. And I believe I also have a book a call in there at the moment. So it's giving people not too many options, but like 2 or 3 options of the most likely next step that they need in order to come further into your world, basically. So talking to like very busy professionals, it's just going to be very clear, like maybe it is a case studies, maybe it's companies that I've transformed or something like that. And I would just make a really simple graphic on Canva, get the words big on there, and then that's your thumbnail, is how it'll be listed. So when you go into featured, you add link rather than add post, and then you can add a thumbnail, which can just be a graphic from Canva, and link it to something, so that then when they scroll your profile, you've got some really clear, obvious next steps.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So the last C then that we've touched on connections, we touched on content, and I think we touched previously on conversations as well. So we've looked at all the 3 C's, and basically I think you've highlighted the importance of really making sure that you're doing all 3 and doing them well and consistently, right? And I think ever since LinkedIn launched and people started using it and for different purposes and through its evolution, I think if one message is being clear throughout, it's consistency.
Absolutely.
What is your take on that?
On consistency?
Yeah.
It's very important, but I also don't believe people should stress themselves out over it. There's a balance. Like, consistency doesn't mean that every single day you're spending an hour talking to people and you're posting every single day. Like, for most of us, that's not really that realistic. So if you can post even twice a week and make them really good quality pieces of content, and also be getting online a couple of times a week, messaging people, doing all of that, that really helps. I would actually put more focus at the moment into leaving really valuable comments on other people's posts than into posting yourself. So if it has to be one or the other, do post, because that is important, but you don't need to post every day. You need to be speaking to people. That's where you get found by more people, where you're showing up as the authority, like all of that side. So with consistency, it is important, but consistency means something different to different people.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Meg, for joining us. It's been a really interesting discussion. And I do like to end the podcast with your top 3 tips. So what would your top 3 be?
Okay, so first one, which we haven't covered, but is to use your personal profile, not a business profile. It is 20 times easier to build a personal brand than it is to build a business brand. So if you're just starting out, don't worry about your business profile, use your personal one. That's the first one. The second is to get really, really clear on what it actually is you do. HR consultant doesn't count. You need to go way deeper than that. What is it you do? Who do you do it for? Is there a certain type of company, a certain size of company? That's really important. You need to have that on your profile, and you need to have it everywhere else. The third one is to make sure you're covering those 3 C's. Are you actually doing each element, or are you just posting here and there and then going, LinkedIn doesn't work for me? Are you actually doing all of it and having those conversations and bringing people into your world and getting to know them better?
Excellent. Again, thank you once again, Meg. Fantastic tips at the end there. And thank you everyone for tuning in and for listening to us. If you've enjoyed these conversations, please share with your network. And if you've got any questions on what we've discussed, please do get in touch and we'll be more than happy to answer them. You can contact us via hrvoices@hrindependence.co.uk. Thank you and speak to you again soon. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of HR Voices. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover or would like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media or email us at hrvoices@hrindependence.co.uk. Tune in next time.